So Konami just announced some new cards for the Lord of Magician's structure deck, and with that in mind, these cards are actually kinda crazy, at least one of them is. Endymion the Founding Sorcerer Supreme is a level 7 Dark Spellcaster Pendulum effect monster with 2800 attack, 1700 defense. It's a pendulum scale of 8 and it has the following effect. Its pendulum effect is you can only use the pendulum effect of this card's name once per turn. You can remove 6 spell counters from your field, special summon this card from the pendulum zone, then destroy cards on the field up to the number of cards you control that you can place spell counters on. And for each card destroyed, place a spell counter on this card. And its monster effect is once per turn when a spell/trap card or its effect is activated, you can return one card you control that has a spell counter placed on it to the hand. Then negate that activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then you can place the spell counters that were on that card on this card. This card that has spell counters placed on it cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When this card with spell counters placed on it is destroyed by battle, you can add one normal spell from your deck to your hand. So this card has quite a lot of effects, and there's a lot going on with it, so let's digest this a bit. Its pendulum effect requires you to have 6 spell counters, which can be difficult to pull off at times. To be fair though, it's actually easier than when you keep in mind you first activate this as a spell, putting more spell counters on your cards, so there's that. As well, we still have plenty of cards yet to be revealed for this structure deck, so maybe some new cards will help us with spell counters. However, it will destroy cards on the field, which is so free if you have the 6 spell counters. So not only can the special itself like the original Endymion, but instead of having to discard a card to pop one, it gains you even more value as it doesn't even require that. It just pops one or more through this effect. However, it won't just pop one, as it will pop 2 or more cards. Considering if you're removing spell counters from your field, you'll at least have one other card you're removing the spell counters from. And even with that in mind, typically it won't just be one other card as well, considering it's not highly likely you'll have 5 counters on one card before activating this, but you get the point. This card's pendulum effect gets even crazier though. So not only are you summoning this, not only do you get free pops, but then this even gains you more spell counters. So think about it this way, you will definitely have other cards that can hold spell counters on the field. Even if you only add 2 other cards that can place spell counters on them, this will destroy 3 cards for absolutely no reason, and then give you 3 more counters. Even then, you can just destroy 1 card if your opponent only controls 1 card and it will gain 1 counter, but the point is the more cards your opponent controls when this effect resolves, the more spell counters and just the more value in general you will get. For 6 spell counters, that is insane value, but regardless of all that value, it gets even better. Remember, this also summons itself and actually has an incredible on-field effect. So while it's on the field, it can negate any spell/trap card or effect by returning a card with spell counters on it to the hand. It's first off a negate, and who doesn't want a free negate? It's not necessarily free, but it most certainly is easy to manage, considering you can even return itself to hand, which as well sets up Endymion to be summoned through its effect next turn as well. This return to hand part might seem terrible at first glance, as you lose spell counters by doing this, assuming there are spell counters on the cards, but this card just places all of the spell counters on it, essentially not hurting you whatsoever. If it's, for example, a trap card, this might even get you even more value, like returning Endymion to the hand, considering then you can set it and activate it again the following turn. It's interesting how this effect works, considering you'd assume it would have to do with removing spell counters, but instead it's even better as you're literally not losing any card advantage or spell counters. But wait, there's for some reason even more good things about this card. While it has even 1 spell counter on it, it cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. I'm sorry, but this is one crazy boss monster. So you're telling me it removes 6 spell counters like the original Endymion, and puts more spell counters on the field because it activates in the pendulum zone first, which makes getting spell counters even easier for its summon. It special summons itself from the pendulum zone, should destroy at least 2 to 3 or even more cards on the field. It gains back some of the resources committed, along with it being a negate after this crazy pendulum effect, and it is very hard to deal with. I'm sorry, I'm so dumbfounded at how powerful this card is. If somehow, some way, that wasn't enough for you, the cherry on top is when it's destroyed by battle, it'll add any normal spell card from your deck to your hand. This card can add Pot of Desires, it can add Monster Reborn, Soul Charge, absolutely anything. This card is mental. Like, I cannot believe how powerful they made this card. It is without a doubt phenomenal support for an archetype that honestly kinda needed it. I mean, they didn't necessarily need it, unless you're thinking about it for them to be tier 1. And, well, thinking about this deck being tier 1, this deck definitely needed a card like this. There are flaws with this card, to be fair. If your opponent even has any spell/trap removal, it could be Cosmic Cyclone, it could be MST, it could be Twin Twister. If your opponent uses that card on this card while it's in the pendulum scale, or if it's somehow negated through the likes of a negate, that puts you in a much worse situation, as you can only use this effect once per turn and they just dealt with your bomb card. However, besides that, this card just has so many advantages to it that those negatives aren't nearly enough to not play this card. And this card is absolutely incredible for the archetype. We still have another card to talk about though, and that's Daybreaker, the Splendid Magical Knight. Daybreaker, the Splendid Magical Knight is a Link 2 light spellcaster and Link effect monster with 1600 attack. Its Link arrows are bottom left, bottom right. It requires 2 spellcaster monsters as material, and it has the following effect. You can only use the second and fourth effect of this card's name once per turn each. If this card is a Link summon, activate this effect. Place 1 spell counter on this card. If a spellcaster is special summoned to a monster zone this card points to, activate this effect. Place 1 spell counter on this card. This card gains 300 attack for each spell counter on this card. You can remove 2 spell counters from this card, then target 1 card on the field, destroy that card. So really, this is just pretty decent. It would have been nice to have this card do something for consistency, but it doesn't hurt having a generic removal card for spell counter decks. When I say generic, I mean this card only requires 2 spellcasters. It turns your spellcasters into more spell counters along with an additional body. One thing I do want to point out is only its second and fourth effects are a hard ones per turn, and while I don't see this being relevant, it can technically be Link summoned over and over again for an additional spell counter on summon. Again, probably not relevant, but I 100% wanted to point that out. It's not bad whatsoever, and obviously is supposed to be a retrain, a breaker, in a Link monster form. While it's definitely not as crazy as Endymion, it will definitely be played in the deck. So to round this up, I definitely think this archetype has potential to be top tier considering how powerful a card like Endymion is. But honestly, the deck being top tier all comes down to the rest of the cards in the structure deck. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to support me further than just watching my YouTube videos, go down into the description and support me on Patreon. It helps out quite immensely. As well, if you guys want to talk to me further than just my YouTube comment section, go down into the description and join my Discord server. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, I hope to see you soon.